Hey guys, Sean here from Tesla Family. It's a beautiful sunny day here in Maryland. My Tesla solar panels are soaking up that sunshine. Today I'm going to try a little bit of an experiment, and I'm going to try to charge my Model 3 just by using energy from the sun. Let's head into the garage right behind me here. I'll plug in my Model 3 and show you exactly how we can charge my Model 3 with the sun. All right, we're inside my Model 3. It's about 10:30 in the morning and my panels are already collecting 5 kilowatts. My system is 7.56 kilowatts, so we definitely still have some room here before we top out. But in order to charge my Model 3 using only the power from the sun, we're gonna have to keep my charge rate at or below my instantaneous solar collection. So what I'm gonna try to do is every hour I'm going to be checking my Tesla app and I'll be adjusting the charge rate of my Model 3 up or down to try to follow the solar production curve. Let's go ahead and plug in my Model 3 right now, and then we'll get the initial adjustment to get close to 5 kilowatts. So here's my Tesla wall connector. This charges up to 11 kilowatts, which is about double the power that my solar panels can collect. Okay, I just heard the charger kick on and we have a green light, which is good. So right now I have the charge current set to 20 amps, max 4 kilowatts. We can probably bump this up a little bit. I don't want to go too high because I don't want to go, oh, okay. Actually, it just settled out to around 5 kilowatts. We're not going to want to go any higher than 20 amps. The maximum rate is 48 amps, so we're less than half of my maximum charge rate. We're starting out our charge with just 21% here. In order for me to get to my charge limit of 80%, it's going to take 9 hours and 30 minutes. So at this current rate, we're likely not going to be able to get my car all the way up to 80% just from solar. This will be a cool experiment to see how high we can charge my Model 3's battery using just the power from the sun. Check back with you in a little bit. All right, guys, it's been about an hour. We've added about 5% to the battery straight from the sun. An update is that my solar panels are now pulling down 5.7 kilowatts, and I see that it's pushing 300 watts to the grid. Let's go ahead and try to get that into the car, and I'm going to do that by bumping up my charge current. We'll start with maybe 2 amps and see if that will cover at 300 watts. All right, we're up to 5.8 kilowatts of solar, and all of that is going into my home right now. Actually, there's a little bit of fluctuation where we are pulling a little bit of grid power here, just 100 watts from the grid. Probably some minor fluctuations in solar and minor fluctuations in my charging. So the equation to determine the amount of watts that your car is pulling is pretty simple. It's just amps times volts. So we can quickly calculate that right here. 22 amps times, and over here you can see that I am pulling 242 volts. So 242 equals 5.3 kilowatts. So my car is using 5.3 kilowatts of the total 5.8 that my solar panels are collecting. So about half of a kilowatt, or 500 watts, is being used by other lights in my home, such as the lights I have on in the garage right now, or the refrigerator running, things like that. So actually this is good news. We are charging my Model 3 exclusively with solar power right now, and we're up to 27%. I'll check back in an hour. We may have to do a little bit of adjustment. As long as we stay sunny, we should end up pushing above 6 kilowatts, and then we can make another small adjustment. So every amp that I increase or decrease is going to change my total watts in charging by 242 or 243 watts. It's equivalent to the voltage. So we'll keep that in mind as we go forward. All right, guys, it is near 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and we're at 6.2 kilowatts, a little higher than we were before. You can see that we are pushing around 200 watts to the grid. It just changed here, but we want to make sure that that's going into the Model 3. So let's bump up our charge current by another amp, which will be around 240 volts. And that will help equal out. You can see the instantaneous change here already. We're pushing all of our solar into our home, and we're not drawing any from the grid. But to account for what I'm expecting to be a little bit higher solar production as we get closer to 1 o'clock and past, I want to bump it up one more amp, and that should cover for the next hour. But overall, we are doing a great job of following our solar production curve. So through the middle of the day, we're already up to 21.4 kilowatt hours. And if I turn on grid, you can see here that once I started charging around 10 o'clock in the morning, we've been able to minimize the amount of solar that we are sending to the grid, and we're pushing it all into our car. Here I turned on the home usage screen, and you can see that that curve is staying just under or following our solar production curve, which is cool. That means everything that we're generating from our panels is going into our home, and we're charging our Model 3 with pure solar. All right, it's about 1:30 p.m. and we have a peak solar right now of 6.8 kilowatts. We're pushing about 500 watts to the grid, so we can actually boost our charge current another 2 amps to try to compensate for that. So rather than pushing that 500 watts to the grid, let's push it into the Model 3, and we can see the change here on the app. Very cool. Lately, I'll take you outside of the garage. We have had some scattered clouds move by. So you can see that there is some scattered cumulus clouds out here, and every time one of these gets in front of the sun, obviously it blocks the panels. It creates a little mini eclipse for a few minutes, but that does drop our solar production for a few minutes. It's hard to maintain a steady 6 to 7 kilowatts when we have these clouds moving through, but for the most part, we are charging our Model 3 entirely with solar. An update on charging around 1:30. We're up to 41% now, so we've about doubled our starting charge. We started around 21%. We've doubled that, trying to make this charging session a zero carbon footprint. It is about 3:15 in the afternoon, and with these afternoon clouds going by, it's getting really challenging to keep my charge rate to the same level as my max solar production. I'll show you here that we had a really nice smooth curve up until right around solar noon or 1 p.m. and then afterwards we've had clouds come in, and then that really is starting to chop up our solar curve. In order to better calculate where we should be, I'm just going to subtract 2 hours from solar noon, which is 1 p.m. and bring it back to 11 a.m. That puts us at around 5.2 kilowatts. So if we had a continuous smooth curve, we'd probably be right around 5.2 kilowatts now at 3:15 in the afternoon. We are currently charging at 6 kilowatts, so we're running a little bit high. So to get to 5.2 kilowatts, the calculation to figure out the amps that we need is going to be 5200 or 5,200 watts divided by 243 volts. So we need to bring our charge current down to, let's go ahead and knock it back 5 amps to 21, and that should get us better in alignment. 2, 3, 5. So we should start to see a reflection that better matches our afternoon solar curve, or where a smooth afternoon solar curve would be if we didn't have the clouds. Okay, we'll check back in another hour. Okay, it is near 4:30 now, and you can see that during the whole entire afternoon, it's been rather tricky to track the solar production with the clouds going by. In fact, the past couple hours here, maybe since 2 o'clock or so, we've really averaged only about 3 kilowatts. So if I turn on home usage on the app, you can see that I've been tracking well over my solar production. I need to really back that off. I'm actually not sure why I have these 11 kilowatt spikes. I don't really have that much power being drawn other than the car charger right now. So let's go ahead and drop this back to 3 kilowatts and we'll try to get it back in alignment again. You can see right now we're only 1.5 kilowatts, so we're pulling too much from the grid. We'll back this off to 3 kilowatts. So in order to do that, we'll just bring this down to maybe 12 amps. 12 times 245 is 2,940 watts. So that should help us out for maybe the next hour. It is nearly 6 o'clock and we're dealing with a lot more clouds toward the end of the day here, which is really cutting in on our solar production. I was hoping for a really sunny day, and we had that for the first half of the day, but the second half's been a struggle to keep a consistent solar production. We are up to 69% state of charge and 3 hours and 15 minutes left while charging at 3 kilowatts in order to get to my 80% limit. So taking a look at my Tesla app, you can see that we're down to less than 1 kilowatt of solar production right now with all the cloud cover. We're drawing 2 kilowatts from the grid. I didn't want that to happen, so we're just going to have to knock this back all the way to our minimum, which is just 5 amps. And when we do that, that bumps up our remaining charge time greater than 6 hours. It's still climbing. Now we're greater than 7 hours. So it's pretty much going to shut us down for the day. And you can see that making that quick adjustment though allowed us to cut off our draw from the grid. We were able to go up to 1.6 now, so we are pushing some back in the grid. Maybe I shouldn't have come down that low, but we are in and out of sunlight right now. I think we'll just kind of hold at 5 amps for the rest of the daylight, which is probably only going to be for another 2 hours. Here's our energy usage. You can see how ever since around 1 o'clock or so, we've had some difficulty with the clouds really cutting into our solar production. And I've tried to stay underneath the curve, but that's been super tricky. Between 2 and 4, I was charging between 6 and 7 kilowatts, and that was a bit too high as we were only drawing around 2 to 3. It's pretty difficult to stay within the solar curve if it's not a smooth solar curve. But a fun experiment either way. So on the day, we've drawn 42.4 kilowatt hours, and 38 kilowatt hours of that has been solar. Keep in mind that some of this home usage did come at nighttime before the sun came up. So we're probably pretty close to being equal solar power and home usage during the daytime. Okay, it's about 7:30, and I'd say that's about it for solar production today. The sun is now down toward the horizon behind the trees and my neighbor's house, and there is no direct sunlight on the panels. We'll go ahead and jump inside the Model 3 and see how much solar we were able to put into the car today. So my Tesla app is still showing 200 watts, which is probably fine from the ambient light that's hitting the panels. Otherwise, we're pulling 1.4 from the grid, and we are still charging at that 5 amps, 1 kilowatt rate. 7 hours and 50 minutes to get the last 9%. We're at 71%. We actually added about 50% state of charge to the battery today. I would say mostly with solar. It would have been a lot easier if we didn't have all those clouds in the afternoon. Taking a look at the energy usage screen, you can see that really once we got past 1 o'clock, right through 7 o'clock here, we had some difficulty with clouds really eating in on our solar production curve. I'd say about 25%, if not more, chewed out of that solar production curve. Turning on home usage, you can see that I really tried to keep our home usage at or under the curve, but very difficult once we had those sharp drops in the afternoon with the cloud cover. So had we had a pristine solar day with no clouds in the sky and a perfect bell curve, I would have been pretty happy with how our home usage fit that curve. We had a couple spikes there that I'm not sure what was going on there. So now just looking at solar production and grid usage, you could see the difficulty that I had with trying to not use grid energy in the afternoon, but with the sharp drops, it was hard to keep track of where my solar production was compared to my charge current. I really would have had to been sitting in the car all afternoon to do a better job of keeping track of it. But overall, I think we did pretty good. Let's take a look at the final numbers. So home usage today, including the overnight hours, 45.4 kilowatt hours. Into the Model 3 though, 35 kilowatt hours, so about half of a battery. Like I said, 50% charge. Solar energy produced today, 39.6, 14.8 kilowatt hours from the grid and 9.1 kilowatt hours to the grid. So missed out on about 9.1 kilowatt hours to the grid that we could have put into the Model 3. Let me know what you think about trying to charge the Model 3 with pure solar. It's rather difficult to match your usage with your solar production. But the good thing is that with net metering, it really doesn't matter, right? So I can send as much energy as I want into the grid and I get those as credits anyway. So I could charge my Model 3 at night. All right, give me a like and click that subscribe button if you enjoy this content. Leave me a message below if you have any questions or if you have a video topic that you'd like to hear about. Thanks. All right, guys, thanks for watching the video. If you really enjoyed it, make sure you subscribe to Tesla Family Channel here on YouTube. We really appreciate all of our subscribers and everyone who watches our videos. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment down below and I'll get back to you soon. Check out all of our other videos as well. Also, follow us on Twitter at TeslaFamilyChan. Use my referral code to buy a new Tesla and you will get 1,000 free supercharging miles. Or if you use my referral code to buy Tesla solar roof or solar panels, you'll get a $100 reward after system activation.